mean, if that doesn't get you fired up,
Wow.
but what does?
Super cool.
Welcome, everybody, to the SVS Audiophile Happy Hour Special Ultra Evolution Speaker Launch Edition. I know we've been talking about this for a while, guys, but how's everyone doing tonight? Gary, I'll start with you.
Well, I couldn't be more excited. I mean, this is our family. We've been launching these speakers to people that are not necessarily in the SVS community, but now we're able to share them with this gang. And I'm watching the comments fly by, and it's making me very happy. So great to be with everyone.
Excellent. And we'll just go around and do quick hellos before we get into the format. Of course, we have our national training manager, the Larry, back from Houston, checking out that awesome shop at the Grid yesterday where we did our teaser. How you feeling, Larry?
I'm good. I was driving around all South Texas, so made it through the Eclipse Gauntlet, as we're kind of jokingly calling it down here. So it's a good trip. Good to be home.
Very good. And Ed, we weren't sure we were going to have Ed, but he came in at the last second and swooped in, and we always know he brings a lot to the table. Ed, thank you for joining tonight. How are you feeling?
I wouldn't miss the Ultra Launch Edition for anything.
Ultra Evolution.
Evolution, yeah, of course.
Ed's in a time warp.
We are in the direct path of the eclipse, so it's kind of a big deal in my town. But professionally in customer service, we're just getting lit up by excited customers who are interested in the Ultra Evolution family and upgrading from their existing speakers. So I'm just so excited to be a part of that and get them into our new products.
Well, we love having you, Ed, as always, but you are not the most special guest of the evening. Our most special guest, I think this is your third or fourth time, Smith. You've been here before, but Smith Freeman, I like to call him our chief product designer. And it's wonderful to have you, Smith, to share some of the knowledge and insight about the development of Ultra Evolution. How are you doing tonight?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I can't believe this day is finally here. I can't tell you how excited I am. So I think Gary probably knows how excited I am. We've been working on this for a long time.
It's been a long journey, right, Smith? I mean, we've had a long journey.
It's been a while.
Absolutely. Well, just for anybody who might be tuning in for the very first time, this is very much a casual conversation here, and we love to see your questions. We'll have 3 giveaways to do over the course of the night. Our first giveaway of the evening, Larry, do you have these committed to memory? You're doing the show here.
Let's see. I know there was an SB1000 Pro in there.
You got that one?
I don't remember what the middle one was.
Prime Wireless Pro powered speakers for the second giveaway. And then I'm sure you remember the third giveaway.
I do remember the third one. The third one, someone's going to win a pair of our brand new Ultra Evolution bookshelf speakers with some SoundPath speaker cable to connect it up to.
That's right, the by-wire speaker cable. So that will be a killer. One of the first people to bring home some of the Ultra Evolution bookshelves. We're very excited to give those away. But we have to stick with tradition and go through some of what we've been listening to recently. So Gary, why don't I kick it off to you before we really dive into some of the Ultra Evolution details?
I'm not a good person to talk to because you guys have kept me on the road for the last basically 3 weeks. I've been to Germany. I've been to Vegas and I feel like something else and I don't remember what.
Did you go to any shows while you were there or watch anything on the plane?
I work on the plane, Larry. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Well, you got a show coming up with Maynard that I think is very interesting. I didn't know he was doing this, but that is actually something worth teasing.
I am going to see. I just decided last minute I'm going to go see Sunday night in Raleigh, North Carolina. Sesanta. Has anybody heard about this? It's 3 bands, all with Maynard James Keenan, the lead singer from Tool, but not Tool. What put me over the edge was that Josh Freese, the phenomenal drummer, now drummer of the Foo Fighters, was the original drummer of A Perfect Circle, and so it's basically A Perfect Circle will be reunited as part of this. I'm going, so I am excited about that.
Very cool. Larry, I know you've been doing the road work.
You and I are going to, before we have the next happy hour, Nick and I are going to be holding hands watching Yo-Yo Ma, right?
That's right. Don't steal my thunder. That was going to be my big update. But yes, we're going right from Axpona to the the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. to see Yo-Yo Ma. And I am beyond excited for that. Great date night away from the kid. And frankly, I don't know.
I said we were holding hands. Now they're going to think it's you and I on the date, which there's nothing wrong
I subtly tried to clarify.
We're bringing our wives.
Yep. Subtle clarification there. But yeah, no, that's going to be special. I know how talented he is, and I've never seen anyone with that type of talent in terms of any kind of classical music or orchestra or however you want to classify it. So again, it's going to be a new experience that I'm really looking forward to.
Yo-Yo Ma was my first entry point to classical music. Him playing that was his first recording of the Bach cello suites, which it's a great way to start your understanding of classical music because it's just one instrument, but the music is phenomenal. But you can follow it relatively easily, even though it's some of the greatest music ever composed, and he plays it beautifully. And we're going to have a great time, Nick.
Well, I can't wait. Larry, I know you've been on the road, but what have you been tuning into recently?
Well, baseball season kicked off, so I've been watching the Rangers, get to see them get their rings and all that stuff. NBA basketball coming down to the wire. The next to last episode of Tokyo Vice. I watched Roadhouse, the new one with Jake Gyllenhaal, on my flight last week up to Boston, and it was actually quite a bit of fun. Tried to go see the new Kong movie last week, and the theater was such a poor presentation, I walked out. I didn't want to experience a really awful theater, so I left, and I've been picking up some new content. So some new old content. I've finally got my hands on True Lies and Aliens. I'm waiting to find the Abyss so we can demo these at some of these shows. Getting ready to go to Axpona next week and hang out with some of you guys.
Yeah, we'll get more into Axpona here in a few minutes, but let's continue our rounds here with Ed. What have you been viewing recently?
I decided to give the networks a try, and I'm watching Tracker, which is supposedly the most popular network show in the country. I think it's okay. There's some plot holes and some implausibilities, and it's a little bit of fluff, but it's nothing on the level of the other shows you guys are watching. But I'll probably finish the season.
Oh, network TV! Wow, it's been a while for me there, but good for you, Ed. Out of way. Smith, what about yourself?
I've had no time to go see or do anything, but my wife and I did have one date night where we went and saw Dune. It almost turned into something like what you had, Larry, where we walked into a theater that was called an IMAX theater, but it was just like a super vanilla surround system. So we changed our tickets to a smaller screen, but with a full Atmos system, and it was bliss. It was amazing. Awesome. I loved it.
Very cool. Well, I'll make up for some of your lack of viewing. I had tuned into the 3-body problem, the first few episodes, which I teased on the previous broadcast. It's getting a lot of buzz and just a really cool sci-fi, high-tech sort of storyline, with AI undercurrents as well. So would definitely recommend checking that out. I did see Godzilla X Kong in the same theater that Larry walked out with. I had an 8-year-old with me, his first PG-13 movie, so I did not have the liberty of being able to walk out without some sort of crisis. But I thought it was a great movie. It was way more than I expected for a Monster Clash type movie. And I think they're starting to really nail the storylines with these to make them really interesting. And then been listening to I just randomly last night an 80s video game music playlist like Mario Brothers, Sonic. So that was interesting. And then I'm excited for Yo-Yo Ma. You stole my thunder a little there, but also there's a Lisa Loeb and Lyle Lovett concert coming up. And people may not know Rowie Hershkovitz, who was a guest on the Happy Hour, a 2-time guest.
He's a friend of SBS for sure.
He's a friend. He owns SB16, Prime Elevation, a bunch of our stuff, a micro in his 2-channel room. He's married to Lisa Loeb. So I shouldn't say this out loud. I always had a crush on her when I was in high school, and that's more. I love her music. It's just she does kids albums. My kids love her music. So I'm excited to see Lisa Loeb. I figured it's just, it's sort of a natural thing. But I'm excited for that too. So that was what I've been tuning into. Feel free to offer your suggestions in the comments as well. I'm always looking for new content to check out. So if you got something, lay it out there, and I'm sure others will enjoy as well. So Larry did allude to Axpona, and that will be next weekend, where we'll be presenting in rooms 1444 and 1442 at the Renaissance Schaumburg Hotel and Convention Center. Gary, you want to key up what we're going to have for systems there? We'll probably do a happy hour the Thursday night before the event, where we'll actually be able to walk through the rooms. We'll be all set up. But do you want to tease maybe what's in our 2-channel room that we haven't had before?
Well, I mean, we're going to have Ultra Evolution, right? Is that what you're asking? Is that,
some different front end components?
That's for you.
It's going to be a more, I would say, upscale system than we've ever done before as far as 2-channel goes. And I think a lot of people have been asking for this. So we've got some gear in there that, I think we've all agreed is some of the best stuff we've ever run. And I'm excited for.
Well, I would call it, I would call it actually, first of all, the really exciting thing is we're going to be showing Ultra Evolution at Expo, and we have 2 separate rooms. We'll do 2-channel in one room, and we'll do a home theater in the other. And so you're basically going to be able to see 3/4 of the lineup in the 2 rooms. I would say the gear we're hooking them up with is affordable audiophile gear, but definitely legit, and we're having fun with that. Because we do get challenged. We like to prove that our stuff sounds great with, what's, colloquially called mid-fi. This will be definitely a significant step up from that, and it'll be fun. The truth is the speakers just sound phenomenal, seems to me, with whatever we play through them and whatever we hook them up to. And I know that sounds like they're our children, so we're biased, but you come to Schaumburg, come to Axpona, and put them to the test with us. I was in Germany. I guess I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit because I know we're going to talk about Ultra Evolution, but I was in Germany. I brought some of what I consider to be my best demo music and demo tracks for the German press and top German dealers, Swiss and Austrian dealers and press. But they didn't want to hear my demos. They wanted to hear their demos. And you never want to do that. You always want to be in control. You want to play what sounds great on those speakers. But what I really loved about this experience was it just didn't matter what we played through the Ultra Evolution speakers. They sounded great. They sounded great with orchestral classical music, with chamber music, with jazz, with old recordings, new recordings, with hip hop, with rock. This one dude brought this crazy EDM thing with slap bass and just nutty stuff going on. I was cringing at the music, but not how it sounded. And it was just really a great experience. So hopefully we'll be able to show them to some of you in Chicago, or if any of you, I know we've already, there's a lot of them out in the world already just from when we launched last week. So, if people are in the comments, if anybody has them and is enjoying them, let us know.
Absolutely. And I think that provides a really good segue into, that's not the one I want to show. The actual speakers and talking a little bit about them. And I think, one of the first things that I've seen a bunch of people ask is just the name Evolution and sort of what went into that and sort of our philosophy behind the series in general before we get into some of these really specific technology stories. And Gary, maybe you want to start there, and then you and Smith could riff a little bit just on how we ultimately came to this Ultra Evolution concept.
Well, first of all, you're right. We carefully chose that name, and because when we chose the name Pro for 1000 Pro, 2000 Pro, Prime Wireless Pro, I realized too late that people thought this was just jazzed up versions of the old product. And it was kind of heartbreaking to me when people thought the 1000 series was basically, an older version of 1000 Pro, where Smith can tell you it's a massive departure and a complete reimagining of what a subwoofer can be in those price ranges. But because it was 1000 and 1000 Pro, there was sort of a misconception that the 1000 Pro was just a kind of a souped up version of the previous model. And that's really not what we do at SVS, to speak to the name Ultra Evolution. When we do a new model or a product launch, it's not sort of gilding the lily of what was going on before. It's not just a new version of the old thing. It is a complete reimagining. It's everything we've learned since the previous product was launched. These bear zero resemblance to the old Ultra series. They are completely different. And I can tell you, and Smith will testify, the process was quite a long evolution to get where we were. We went through 8 different versions of these speakers. I haven't been saying this much, but I feel like people should know. It was an arduous process. We drove each other crazy. It was like a Tool album being created. It took, I think, 14 years between the last 2 Tool albums. This is almost as bad, but what we arrived at the end was something that these are our masterpieces, right, Smith?
Totally, absolutely, and it's evolution is because it was an evolution from like the early concepts all the way through to what we ended up with, and that's a journey that the design has to go through to get to the right place.
Well, let's start with that journey, because I think like one of the most striking features, most people have when they just see the tower is just the shape of it and sort of the cabinet architecture, and there's some acoustic benefits to having the shape of the cabinet in this way. And why don't we talk a little bit about that first before we get into some of the drivers and just sort of what that acoustically centered time alignment and how that whole form factor ultimately bears benefits in terms of the sonics.
I'll start, and Smith, you, as usual, you correct anything I say that you disagree with, and Ed too, and Larry and Nick. Anyone wants to call me out, you're more than welcome to do it. Yes, the Ultra Evolution series features acoustically centered time alignment, and especially the towers have an acoustic center in the tweeter in between the 2 mid ranges and the 4 woofers. There's actually, you're seeing only 2 woofers, but there's 2 rear firing woofers as well, so 4 total woofers. The front baffle is curved. There they are. They're the 2 rear woofers. The front baffle is curved out from the tweeter so that the emanation point of each driver is in a perfect vertical plane. The emanation point of a cone driver is the part of it that is the furthest away from you. So if I could point my finger at that woofer that you see on the top of the speaker, the center of it would be the emanation point for the sound. On a dome tweeter, this is our all new diamond coated tweeter, the emanation point is the outside of the tweeter. So to make a perfect vertical line between the emanation points of the drivers, you need to curve the front baffle towards you from the top and the bottom. And what that does is it means that the sound of each driver is going to arrive at your ears at exactly the same instant in time. Also, because the tweeter is in between the 2 mid-ranges and the 2 woofers, it's going to come from a single geographic point in space. What this means is that the speaker is oriented to deliver an incredibly rock-solid, accurate, precise image, but yet at the same time still be expansive and full and exciting. And they really do that. So that's the acoustic-centered time alignment. Smith, what would you say to correct me on what I just said?
Yeah, I mean, just to say it in other words, each driver kind of has like a center of gravity acoustically. And so what we've done by positioning the drivers in space such that all of those acoustic centers kind of line up. And so they all arrive at your listening position at the same time. And so physically moving the drivers to correct for that is one of the tools that, and we're not, we did not invent time alignment, right? Time alignment's been around for a long time, but it's hard to implement, and it's hard to implement well, and it's hard to implement
and very expensive and very expensive,
attainable. Yeah, right. So that's the
yeah. I'm seeing a lot of interesting and very astute comments. Yes, the answers to your questions. This is live on svsound.com. So you want to go deep into the technology. There's 3 videos we made, which you can find on YouTube or find the link to it on svsound.com. But also lots of detailed information. You guys know SVS community that we're going to be as transparent as is humanly possible. You're going to know everything about these speakers if you go onto our site or watch the videos or both.
And you also know you can reach out to Ed's team if you have specific
absolutely.
questions about, which towers are right for you, or even more technical questions about the acoustically centered time alignment. So, all of that is certainly available as well.
Who else does time alignment at this price point? Gregory asks. And I think, I don't like to be positioned as a quote unquote value product, but nobody is going to deliver the technology that we bring with this series anywhere near these prices. They're not cheap by no stretch of the imagination. Am I going to say, they're quote unquote affordable? But on the other hand, what they deliver in terms of technology, build quality, all those things, I would gently say, I don't want to sound arrogant, I would gently say it's never been done. And we're excited about that.
So we actually have a question which I think leads us nicely into the next point we want to hit on. Eric B asks about the difference in the tweeter material and how essentially that changes the sound and what exactly you can infer from that update we made to the tweeter.
Well, we've always used aluminum dome tweeters in our speakers because aluminum is very light and very quick, and so it can deliver lots of detail. The next level for us was a tweeter that didn't exist before, and the technology to create it really didn't exist until maybe within the last 10 years. It is our diamond-coated aluminum tweeter, so it's really a diamond-coated tweeter. And it's the diamond coating comes via a process that's very, very cutting edge called vapor deposition. And the question of what sounds different is an excellent one. I'm seeing that in several of the comments. The aluminum moves quickly and delivers detail. But what we wanted to do was raise what's called the breakup frequency, where it distorts to a place where there's no chance of breakup distortion. And this tweeter with its diamond coating takes the breakup frequency, or the frequency where it distorts, to nearly 40,000 hertz. So not only beyond what any human can hear, few humans can hear above 20,000 hertz, but also there's no content that reaches that high of a frequency. What this creates then is an absolutely effortless, airy, high-frequency response, always accurate, always detailed, but never in your face. It's always effortless and with lots of air. The detail just comes across with stunning clarity, but not in a way that's fatiguing to your ears. Smith, what do you want to say about this?
Before you answer, Smith, I do want to do a giveaway. We owe the people a giveaway, right. And
people have to wait. People have to wait for Smith's.
And I have a story about this tweeter too.
Let's not pretend people don't want to win something. So before we get into more of the tweeter, first prize is an SB1000 Pro, and our winner is going to be David Acosta. David Acosta,
yay, David!
Coming your way. We'll reach out, get your info, and get that shipped out.
David, you're going to need speakers with that subwoofer, so keep listening.
Good point. There's a recommendation we could make. So Smith, why don't you dive into whatever you were going to say? I had a follow-up question that I'm interested to hear the answer to as well.
Yeah, one of the reasons to take the breakup frequency, which is already very high in a tweeter, to push it even higher, I think part of that is also headroom, right? Now, I might get a little argumentative with Gary for a second. There's not really content above 20 kilohertz, but actually there's harmonics and there's the air and all that kind of stuff is content that's up there. And so the
it
higher
gets hit
you can go
with things that are above 20,000.
Yeah, right. And you want it to be well behaved as far as it can go. And so that was part of the benefits of doing this processing, this vapor deposition of the diamond carbon on the surface. The other benefits of it is actually it stiffens the dome, and it adjusts the shape of the frequency response of it, and actually it lowers the resonant frequency of the tweeter, so we can actually cross over the tweeter safely lower. And so if you were to look at the crossover specs for this new product line, you'll see that we're actually crossing the tweeter over 100, 200 or so hertz lower than some of our previous products, and that plays into how we tune and voice the whole speaker, and that yields other benefits. So actually that coding for that tweeter yielded a lot of benefits in a lot of different domains.
Larry,
I'm going to say it's the best tweeter I've ever heard, and I've been doing this a really long time. And my hearing, Smith, you have to admit, Smith, my hearing is still intact, even if I'm an old guy.
Yeah,
totally.
The difference walking into these rooms that we set up for CES and the Florida Audio Show, and listening to these at the office, there's content that when we play it at the volumes that we play can be a little difficult to be in front of, and we haven't experienced that with these new products. And Nick and I spend more time in front of them than really anybody at the volume levels we do. And the remarks that we have just amongst each other, like, man, did you hear that? That's totally different. Wow, we're hearing something. It's easier on the ears. There's more range. The imaging is quite a bit different too. So, and I see a lot of questions about these things needing to be off the wall, and we'll get to that as well, but we're able to put these closer to the wall than the previous Ultra. So there's a lot to talk to with these new products, and we're super excited. So I know you all are too, based on these comments.
Forgive the infomercial. I mean, if there's ever going to be an SVS one, it's going to be tonight. So, but we
also want to answer people's questions. We want to, we are doing this. Yeah, I guess it's partially an infomercial, but it's also partially just full transparency of what it is. And there's questions here about, did you consider other materials for tweeters? Somebody's asking about a ribbon tweeter. I haven't seen it here, but we have been asked about beryllium tweeters and soft dome tweeters. And I can tell you that Smith and I and the engineering team went through every single kind of tweeter there is to make our decisions. And, they all have their strengths, but hands down, this was the best tweeter we've ever encountered. Beryllium in particular was one that was interesting to us and we played with a lot. But in the end, it didn't have the ability to handle high power, with elegance. And we were concerned about its longevity. You guys know SVS supports its products for many years beyond the warranty period even. And we take care of every SVS customer. So for that reason, we thought we would have a design more robust, and the sonic characteristics are just stunningly good.
Well, I don't want to.
I would
go ahead.
Can I just say one thing? I think one kind of interesting, anecdote about this tweeter is that when we started this project, this was not even at all in our purview. Like, we had no idea that vapor deposition was even like a possibility that was going to be accessible to us when we started the project. We were absolutely looking at
it's cutting edge
dome materials. Yeah. And so, it's a nod to Jack Mules, who's on our team, that he was able to find the resources and this ability to bring that to the tweeter. And that's truly, that really is cutting edge technology and engineering that makes it that's now accessible. That wasn't literally just a couple of years ago.
Well, one of the things I've had a borderline obsession with is the diffuser, and Gary's like, it's not that big of a thing, and I'm like, I just love the diffuser because it's got a cool story. We went through, at least
we went through a gajillion of them.
We went through
there was no detail we didn't look at with these speakers.
And so there. Ed, I miss your voice, so I'm just going to ask you to define why you have a tweeter diffuser. What's its purpose, and then maybe we can get into just a minute or two about why this one is special.
Well, the diffuser will actually modify the waveform coming off the tweeter cone and improve the frequency response and the dispersion characteristics, and it can also provide, as Gary said, it's sort of a more airy and three-dimensional sound to the tweeter. And I know that this particular diffuser design, just look at it. It's incredibly organic and complex. And I know an immense amount of R&D went into it that Smith will be able to drill into better than I can.
Is there a specific cell that you took this from, or is that just sort of a more generic term, cellular lattice? Because that also just fascinates me.
It's actually Gary's cells. Yeah, we Gary and
no, but I think that what it is we tried all kinds of different things, and what we found was a semi-randomized pattern was creating a much more uniform frequency response no matter where you were in relation to the tweeter. And that was really an amazing discovery that I don't know that other brands have figured that out. It definitely made a difference. And the dispersion characteristics of this tweeter, we talked about the material of the diaphragm, which is very breakthrough, but also the dispersion characteristics of this tweeter, best we've ever had, including the vertical dispersion characteristics, which you care about because not everybody's listening position is vertically right, on the same horizontal plane as the tweeter. So this takes care of any concerns about that. So lots to love about that. So I think we should move on, just because I want to make sure we answer everyone's questions. I think we should probably move on to the third big technology story. Is that okay with you guys?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've pulled up here a graphic that shows sort of the internal design of the woofers, and we talked a little bit about the highs and the tweeter design. I think this speaks to a little bit of our subwoofer pedigree in terms of how we executed on these woofers. So I'll just throw it out there to whoever wants to kick it off. What's special about this force balance array that we've achieved with the towers here? So we have in a pair of speakers, we have 4 arrays of 2 each dual opposing woofers. So what's going on there is they are canceling each other out inside the cabinet. So you're basically eliminating cabinet resonance. Outside of the speaker, they're reinforcing each other. And because in a pair of speakers, there's 8 different active woofers in different parts of the speaker, therefore different parts of the room, they basically take total authority of the room. I've gotten so much feedback about the bass. The bass is not so much that it bowls you over. In fact, it doesn't. It's just authoritative. It's exactly what needs to be there, and no more and no less. And it doesn't matter where you are in the room. I've never seen a speaker that did it that well. And I can show you feedback because I gave up a pair of prototypes to the leader of the DC area audiophile group, our friend Brian, who showed it to a bunch of DC area audiophiles at his housewarming. And they're all like, holy cow, we've never heard anything remotely as good as that. And it's not that it's so much bass or so deep bass. The bass is definitely deep, but it's more that it's just so true and accurate no matter where you are in the room. Smith?
There's not going to be many towers in this space, in this price point, that are capable of going as low. And we've got the 3 models here, the Pinnacle, the Titan, and the Tower. And they all get under 30 hertz with ease. And a lot of it comes from this design here. And talking and training, if you're familiar with our micro subwoofer, it's got a similar technology story here, which is really cool to talk about in the speaker.
Well, that is what we learned. We learned from the micro subwoofer. The dual opposing array yields amazing benefits in terms of accuracy, control, and sound reinforcement in the room. Question I see in the comments: why didn't you use passive radiator? The only reason anyone uses a passive radiator is because it's cheaper. 4 active drivers is dramatically more important, higher performance than passive radiators. Passive radiators are reacting after the motion of the driver, and they just muddy the sound. So you'll never see a passive radiator on an SVS product as long as we're here.
So about the woofers, and this sort of ties into the cabinet architecture as well. A comment came up about, because there's drivers on the rear panel of the speaker, does that mean they can't go close to a wall? I think you touched on this briefly, Larry, but there's actually an interesting design aspect to the speakers that allow you to push them closer to the wall. So anyone want to weigh in on that?
Let me do an overview of those 2 issues. There's 2 issues that come up with this, and I'm watching them in the comments. Issue number 1, or question number 1, is, can they be away from the wall, or should they be away from the wall, or can they be close to the wall? And here's what I would say. They love being 3 to 4 feet in front of the wall if you can do it with a slight toe in, but they don't have to be 3 to 4. They can be right up against the wall if you need, and they can have stuff right up against either side of them. But if they're out away from the wall and away from the side walls and have a little bit of air around them, they will be that much better. So it's completely, we know people have lives, and so sometimes you have to tuck the speakers in. That's totally fine. But if you bring them out from the wall, you will hear a more rock solid, convincing soundstage. And then the second question I'm seeing over and over again in the comments is, do they need high quality ancillary electronics for them to be their best? And the answer is, they don't need that. In fact, Larry hooks them up to a mid-fi surround sound receiver, and they sound amazing. But I've got them hooked up in my home to a very high-end stack of Mark Levinson and a Lynn turntable, and then they really sing. So do they need high-performance electronics? No. Will they benefit? Will you hear the benefits of them with that? Yes, because they're a very precision execution of a speaker. Okay, others can speak and correct all my mistakes that I just made.
Well, some people are asking about if the cabinetry inside. Yeah, the woofers are separated from the mid-range and the tweeters inside the cabinet.
Yeah, that's Smith. You want to do that one?
Yeah, and this is
that's a good question.
Good, it's just good design. If you have dedicated mid-range drivers and dedicated bass drivers, you really don't want them to share literally the same air. And so all of our three-way products across the entire product line, the mid-range drivers are always in their own sealed sub-enclosure. And so just like what the tower is showing here, those two mid-range drivers and the tweeter that are in the front middle, those are in their own sealed enclosure. And then all of the bass drivers are sharing one ported enclosure for themselves.
So it's essentially two speakers in one cabinet.
You could say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it's one speaker. To me, it's all one speaker because it has to be a marriage. It has to all work together.
All right, that's a better answer.
I saw come up with a couple of folks. There's actually three towers in this lineup now. There's the Ultra Evolution Pinnacle, which is the flagship, the largest one, the Ultra Evolution Titan, which are both available now, and then there'll be a smaller tower coming down the road called the Ultra.
We're talking May. We're talking next month.
Not too far down the road, but they'll be here. I saw a question about what are the acoustic differences between those three towers. How can you qualify which one is going to be right for you in your listening space?
So I'll let Smith answer too. All three towers sound very similar, which makes the smallest tower kind of a little magic trick. They really sound very similar. The Ultra Evolution Pinnacle goes deeper and maybe slightly more dynamic. The Ultra Evolution Titan, which is the next tower down, they're really close, but it maybe goes a little less deep and maybe slightly less dynamics. I mean, really slightly. And then I think the Ultra Tower, the smallest one, is a magic trick. It's just shockingly good, and it'll fit in a lot more rooms. Smith, anything?
No, that's exactly right. Basically, as the speaker gets bigger and the drivers get bigger, we can afford lower frequency and higher sensitivity. So you're totally right. And I mean, also part of the reason why the small tower, I don't know if I'm overstepping here, Gary, but like the small tower is coming out later because it really needed more work. And so
it was a big accomplishment. We said when we had our first prototypes of these, let's work on the small tower and let's get it to where and we did. I mean, that's the classic SVS where we're just not going to launch it until it's 100% perfect. Totally. Even though you're supposed to launch everything all in the same day. Well, oops, we didn't because we wanted everything to be perfect. And it was worth it. The Ultra Tower and the Nano, the Nano bookshelf, which are the two that are coming in May, where we worked very feverishly to get them where we wanted them. They are really, really good now.
So I have three very quick questions I want to answer before we move on. First, any consideration for a real wood veneer? The answer is yes. We're going to be doing a black oak wood veneer that will come out in a couple months around the same time as the tower. So that will be available. We also asked, somebody did ask if we're going to be at Axpona. We did address that a little earlier, but yes, Rob, we will be at Axpona, room 1444 and 1442 with both a 2-channel and home theater room. So check us out there. And then Matt B asked, what is the ship date for these? It's right now. So
they're on our site. You can see all the models on our site, including the two that aren't coming until May. You can see everything.
Yeah, and there's 3 finishes on each speaker. And we haven't shown the full line yet, but there are 7 new models here. There's 3 towers, 2 bookshelves, a new center channel, and a new height effect speaker. And they're all going to be available in the piano gloss black, like you see here, piano gloss white, and black oak. So the white.
And this is the first time we've done white towers. Just for the record, the first time we've done white towers. So you guys on this Is it a Zoom? What is this called? I don't even know.
Stream. Just call it a stream.
You guys who have been telling us we need to do white towers, here you go. Here they are. I think they'll do. We know they'll do really well in Europe. I'm curious how they'll do in the U.S.
Yeah.
All right. Quick giveaway. Next giveaway is going to be a pair of our Prime Wireless Pro powered bookshelf speakers. A wonderful prize that is going to one Chuck Sloan. Chuck Sloan, you got some new powered speakers coming your way.
Congratulations.
Killing it with your 2-channel system there. All right, Ed, this one's a softball for you. Any one of us could answer, but again, I miss hearing your voice.
I read that in a couple comments.
MMS HMV24 asked, will they blend well with the old Ultras and might I add Primes, this new Ultra Evolution series?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that the Prime, Legacy Ultra, and new Ultra Evolution are all voiced similarly. They're all timbre matched. And it's totally fine to mix these different loudspeaker families in a system. And in fact, many people already are. It's pretty common to see the Ultra Center paired up with Prime Pinnacle, for example. It's a great pairing. It sounds amazing. So there's no concerns about that at all. And I think Smith and Gary will attest that they worked very hard to make sure that the timbre and tonality and overall sonic signature of the new Ultra Evolution was not so significant of a departure from the predecessors that they could not be used in that way.
It's funny because we Smith and I and Nick just did a Zoom for 60 audiophile press from around the world this morning, and they asked, what do SVS speakers sound like? I mean, are they American sounding? Are they German sounding? Are they UK sounding? And the best answer is our goal is that they sound like the content that went into them, and they don't have a signature, oh yeah, these sound like this country's speakers or California or in fact, we try to make them as true to the content as is possible. And for that reason, they work very well regardless of which series you have mixed and matched in your home theater.
And not geared towards theater or music either. And I think that's
great point, Larry. Why don't you elaborate on that? That's a great point.
There are a lot of products out there. You'll go in, you'll see a brand that makes a pair of speakers that excels musically, but may fall back when it comes to theatrical experiences, or vice versa. We don't want anyone to have to sacrifice that. So these speakers, they're phenomenal for 2-channel. They're amazing for home theater, and you'll get to see that at Expona, at M-Wave, wherever else we're going to do these events. We'll be there, and we'll have both opportunities for you to see them. And going into a system that we did at the Florida Audio Show, we used the Ultra Evolution Pinnacle, and we would toggle back and forth between 2-channel and home theater. And not all of us have the ability to buy separate pairs of speakers for different needs or the room for it. So because of the capability of these speakers, the Pinnacle towers can get down to, near 20 hertz, which is pretty wild, or they can be this wide-ranging home theater speaker. And it's not just the towers. The center channel changed, the bookshelves changed, the height effects, the elevations. I mean, Nick and I have been having a blast with those, with the stuff we were hearing out of it. If you've been to our events, that some of the content we play, and we're like, what was that? Because we're able to cross these lower. We're able to do more with them, push them a little harder than what we've been using previously. So it's been quite a bit of fun to experience that.
So I want to riff off that a little bit, Larry, because, we had some interesting conversations ahead of the launch about the voicing process. And I learned some interesting things from Smith about, to me, it's this like glory filled moment where it's like, oh, you're hearing God's voice once you get it right. And it's like this amazing experience. And there is that, but it's not all just listening to music and sort of, having fun and jamming out to your favorite tunes. There's a real rigorous process that goes down here. So maybe we can speak a little bit to how we actually got from the prototypes, the anechoic measurements within a perfectly acoustically treated environment, to that actual real world experience of voicing them and testing them with different kinds of content.
Yeah, so we've always basically exercised the same process for voicing, and so you can do a lot of work and a lot of design engineering in the theoretical kind of domain. You can do it on a computer, and then you can start getting some prototypes, and you put it in an anechoic chamber, and you do some ground plane, and you do lots of objective, scientific measurement. And then that'll only get you to 90, 95% maybe. And so at that point, the products start moving into a well-defined and well-known listening room. And so we're using the same content, the same segments of the same content, and we're doing A/B switching. We're doing in-room measurements, and then we make some changes, and now we got to go back to the anechoic chamber. And so that becomes a very iterative process where you measure it, then you listen to it, you make some change, then you go back and measure it, then you make some more change, and it goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth just to get that last 2, 3, 4, 5%. And
it isn't much fun. It's tedious. It's hard work. You challenge yourself. You have to keep yourself alert because you get confused listening to these things over and over and over again.
And you hate the music that you are testing them with ultimately, right? Like you get so tired of hearing these same tracks, but there is a moment, right?
I would say it's not what you think. I mean, I think we're constantly questioning ourselves. Literally, we'll say, "Oh, we nailed it, high five," and then we're like at dinner that night, and we're like, "We got to go back and check this and check that." It's a very neurotic process.
And I can't count how many times that I've gone to the end of the day, and I'm like, "Yeah, I think we're there." And then I go back the next morning and listen to it again. I'm like, "What was I thinking? This is totally not there." And so, the process continues. But yeah, you're right. Like when Bob Dylan and the Man in a Long Black Coat comes on just very casually somewhere, I have a straight up panic attack. And so, it's hard. It's hard work. And it's hard to also quantify the subjective, because when you're listening to a speaker, how do you take away, what your brain and what you're feeling and what you had for lunch and just, all the things that are in you when you listen to a speaker, and then try and parse out, well, what is the objective thing I have to do to make this sound right, to make it sound better? And so that's, just as much work as the first 90%.
So we have a question from Gerard about if he wants to upgrade just his center channel. He has other original Ultra Series speakers. Would he notice a difference, and what kind of difference would that make? Just upgrading the center channel.
It's funny you say that, because I'm really proud of the original Ultra Center, and I would say to Smith, I'm nervous that I don't want to go backwards, because that center channel is really good. And Smith was always very confident that we could do better. And but designers and engineers, they have to have a certain confidence in their abilities to do great work, and Smith's confidence is justified, but I still had some skepticism. But spending time with these, the Ultra Evolution Center, it's way better. It's really better. It's shockingly better. It's definitely a step up, and he will benefit from it. And Larry, you riff on why you feel the center channel speaker is the most important speaker in the home theater. So why don't you say?
Yeah, I mean, everything comes from there. And I don't think we've really hit on this yet. Some of you are looking at it and the drivers look similar to the previous model. Everything inside these has changed. It's a new driver component, the new baskets, new crossovers, new tweeters, new material for everything. And
there's nothing that you're exactly right. There's nothing the same between them. Nothing.
So I want to make sure you all are aware of that too, because I don't think we've really hit on that. But you can see there is a slight angle to this as well. So there is more of a presence in the room from this. And we've gone back to playing content. Yeah, the time alignment's cool. We've got that on essentially. I mean, I guess we can say the elevation is time aligned as well, based on its setup. So the family of the Ultra Evolution tells a time alignment story that's really not seen. Once again, going back to the price points, but in the category and the sizes. So, the bookshelves, whether it's the Nano, and I saw people asking about the price point of the Nano, it's going to be $900 for the pair. And we're going to have some really compelling stories. But if you're sitting down, and whether you're watching the news or a sporting event or a big full-fledged movie or, just anything, the center channel is where 80% of what's happening on the screen comes from. So you want to make sure you have all that detail, the definition, lows, mids, highs, and everything in between. And by having a 3-way design versus a 2-way design, you're able to experience more of what was intended by the director, the musician, or whatever's happening on screen too. So there is a more compelling experience there. And we heard that. We've gone back to playing Shallow from A Star Is Born with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. And hearing that with this center channel, it was just eye-opening again. And it's something that really has kind of stood out for a lot of us.
Nick, do you have because we're now getting down to the end of the show, really, do you have pictures of each model? I'd like to just walk our community through each model, because people are making some cracks that we haven't gotten past the towers much. And so let's show everything.
So this is the most beautiful shot because it's not a system, but it will show you each model there. It's just a pile of speakers.
The proverbial pile of speakers that I always do.
If you have the previous elevation speakers and would like to do an upgrade, this uses the exact same mount on the new Ultra elevations as well. So as long as you've got the vertical space or horizontal space for these to go in the same mount, you can fit them. And they're larger. We're able to cross them lower. And I think that's the one we've kind of been having the most fun with hearing new content.
Well, let's go through the models. To the far left of this picture is the Ultra Elevation Pinnacle, the top of the line speaker. They're $5,000 a pair, US dollars. The middle one, in between the two towers, is the Ultra. No, not that. I'm sorry. I meant to say in between the two extreme towers. I want to go to the second tower. So that's the Ultra Evolution Titan, and that is the Ultra Evolution Pinnacle uses 4 8-inch woofers in each speaker. The Ultra Evolution Titan uses 4 6.5-inch woofers in each speaker. To the far right is the Ultra Evolution Tower, and that uses 4 5.25-inch woofers in each speaker. So the towers are very similar in terms of sonic signature. They're the Titan, the middle one, is $4,000 a pair. The Ultra Evolution Tower, the smallest one, is $3,000 a pair, and they are all really, really good. The two bookshelves you see down below to the left, the larger one is the Ultra Evolution bookshelf, and the smaller one is what we call the Ultra Evolution Titan. They both have very similar
Nano.
Sorry?
Nano.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said Titan, didn't I? Yep. I meant to say Ultra Evolution Nano. Thanks, Larry.
You're on it, guys.
Well, I started.
We're hanging on every word.
Yeah.
And those are both full-on bookshelves. Neither one is a mini monitor. The Ultra Evolution bookshelf is a full-sized large bookshelf, and the Ultra Evolution Nano is not small. It's a medium-sized bookshelf and packs a big punch. We talked about the Ultra Evolution Center that you see on the very bottom there, where you would never put a center channel, I might point out. You would normally stand it up, but I digress. And then probably the most requested speaker we've ever had after we launched Prime Elevation, which has been a wonderfully successful speaker for us. When are you going to make an Ultra Elevation speaker? There it is, the Ultra Elevation speaker. We could call it the Ultra Evolution Elevation speaker, but it's too hard to say. But it features all the same technology stories as all the other Ultra Evolution speakers.
And I still find myself calling it Evolution Elevation.
I know we talked a little.
It makes me feel drunk, and even in a happy hour, I don't want to feel too drunk.
We did talk a little bit about that.
Look at you! It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Smith.
It's very nearly 4 o'clock.
He's been going since 6 a.m. his time.
Yeah. It's well, I've seen a lot of questions about specific. Is this Onkyo model? Is this Denon model AV receiver okay to drive these? And I think we touched a little bit upon the front end equipment.
I mean, the short answer is yes to all of it. I saw somebody in previous comments said Soundbase, can the Prime Wireless Pro Soundbase drive them? Absolutely. We did that at CES and they were playing really loud. Can a mid-fi receiver drive them? Absolutely. Larry, what was the price point of the Marantz receiver you had at CES?
We're using a Denon 4700 is what we use for our shows, and that's $1,000, $1,100.
It's a nice receiver. But it's not top of the line.
It's quality.
Yeah. And I'll be running them up at my house. I'm going to order the Titans, and I'll be running those off of a much older Denon receiver. So you don't need a ton to drive them. Will you benefit from a little more power? Absolutely. But they're very efficient considering their size. Yeah,
There's 6 ohm. People are asking about the impedance. There's 6 ohm impedance, and if you want to compare them with the Ultra series that they're replacing, they're an easier thing for amplifier to drive than the old Ultra series. So it's just not going to be a problem.
I see some questions about weight and dimensions. All of that is on our site. If you look at the specs, I think that might put people to sleep if I start reading how much each one weighs. But you can get all that information readily on the website. One other thing I wanted to mention, small detail, but again, something that I like to obsess over, like the tweeter diffuser, magnetic grills. First magnetic grills for SVS. So that's why you see that.
And they're cool looking grills. They have seams.
Cool.
Do we have anything closer up than that? They have seams where the baffle curves, and it looks really cool. So they look great grill on or grill off.
And people are asking where they can get them. They're available on our website. And if you have a local dealer that has our current like Ultra and Prime Series speakers, the likelihood that they have them arriving in the next couple of weeks is pretty high too.
So I found an interesting question here that Smith, maybe you could address around, was there any one particular aspect of the design that was really a challenge to overcome? Like what element of these was truly, a breakthrough once you finally got through that moment of, we nailed it?
I mean, I think probably the biggest thing is what was like the inspiration of the whole thing. Like, I mean, between the 5 of us, we've got, probably over a century of audio industry experience. And I can, speaking for myself, I've always looked at some of these,
I alone
really
have more
premium.
than a century of experience.
I was going to say, if you just add Gary and
I was going to spare you that
together,
part.
we get 100.
But I've always looked at, ever since I was a kid and got into audio, I've always looked at these really premium, exotic loudspeaker designs and think like, wow, like there's all these amazing ways of bringing design and technology into a speaker and really making the most refined product that you can make. And then the disappointment for me was always like, well, maybe I'll hear it at a show sometime, but I'll never be they'll never be in my selection set. And so this whole thing really started with, here's all these amazing ways to make an amazing speaker. And, force canceling drivers, diamond coded tweeter, time alignment, building out all these driver arrays. And like the challenge was, how can we try and bring all these things in to one design that actually works for normal people and is accessible. And so to me, that's the thing.
I love that, Smith. That's why, I mean, many years ago when you and I first started talking, this was the dream, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's why I came back. It's why you dragged me back into audio.
Yeah. Were you out of audio? I don't think you were out of audio. Yeah. You were in a world, you didn't consider it audio, but others thought they were making audio. You wanted to make products that wow people like these.
Somebody did say that the saxophone man here looks a little like Larry. I'm not quite seeing the resemblance, but I just had to bring it up so I could judge for myself.
All right. The truth is, it is Larry. We didn't want to have to pay royalties, so we used Larry.
So we used Gary's DNA for the cell lattice structure. Larry's in our images. So we got all sorts of Easter eggs flying around these speakers. But we're almost at time here. Just a few quick reminders. We'll be at Axpona next week. Thursday night, we're more than likely going to do another happy hour from the show floor where we'll have a whole display of these behind us and hopefully be able to give a little bit of a room tour. Might have some special guests crashing the live stream as well, as we love to do at some of these live events that we're exhibiting at. So check us out if you're going to be in the Schaumburg area or planning to attend Axpona. 1444, 1442 is where we'll be at. Larry, Gary, and I will all be there. So we'd love to play some demos for you and have some fun with the new speaker line.
I did see some people asking about Munich High End as well in the comments, and we will be there. Nick will be with me. Larry will be there. So anyone who has the ability to get to Munich or is in Europe, hopefully we'll see you there and come say hi to me.
And just to throw out some other teasers, we'll be at the Home Entertainment Show out in Costa Mesa in June. We'll be at M-Wave in June. We'll also be having a consumer event that we'll be releasing details soon on May 30th at Worldwide Stereo, one of our top retailers in the country. So
in Philadelphia area.
In the Philadelphia area. So all of that will be on our calendar.
And more coming. We're going to be able to show them to you guys if you want to hear them.
Absolutely. So let's get to this final giveaway of the evening. It is a pair of the brand new Ultra Evolution bookshelf speakers with some of our SoundPath by-wire.
Oh my God. No. Don't give away Ultra Evolution. We need to sell those.
Well, this might be the only time you can ever win them, but I have already spoken, so no take backsies, unfortunately. But the happy winner of the new Ultra Evolution bookshelf speakers is, drum roll, Scott Munch. Scott Munch, congratulations. Happy to send those out. We'll have more giveaways next week, more announcements to make. Check us out at Axmona. Gentlemen, thank you for all your knowledge and wisdom today. Always a pleasure, and happy listening to everyone out in SVS.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Hope we see you in Chicago.